Hey everybody. Well, this is my YouTube. It's been a while. Um, and I hate that this is my first video back. But I want to be talking about something that I'm very passionate about. And this doesn't just this isn't a new thing, and I've seen this happen with other movies, but this is really one of the handful of times where I really feel like I need to speak up. So, obviously, by the title, going to be talking about Dear Evan Hansen. If you don't know the story at all of that jazz, spoilers, you can find my TikTok or my podcast, the Shoebox, my Instagram, to find my thoughts on what I thought about the movie. The short version is I loved it. Go see it. I think this movie deserves all the support in the world. So that's the super short version. All right. So for everybody that's still here, I'm assuming that you either don't care about having anything spoiled, if I feel the need to go into things, or you're very familiar with Dear Evan Hansen. Here's the thing. Ben Platt played the role on stage from 2015 to 2017. His last performance was in November of 2017. Okay? They just filmed this movie last year. Okay? So he is older than he was when he was playing it before, you know? But here's the thing. If you go look at pictures of him on stage versus what he looks like in the movie, he doesn't look that different. I think they did a really good job with the makeup. And I don't know if they did any de-aging too or not. There's some scenes that look like maybe they did, and others where maybe not. So I wasn't sure. I can tell you this, comparatively from the trailers to the film itself, it looks a lot better in the movie than it did in the trailers. I will definitely say that. For me, it didn't take me out of the movie at all. Once. But this is also a story that I know because I've seen video of the stage play. So I was already familiar with this story before ever going into the movie. So as somebody, look, I kid you not, when I first found this musical, I think it was last year when I first really found out about it, I listened to the soundtrack to the Broadway musical probably for 2 or 3 months straight, just listening to it over and over and over again. When I tell you that this is a story that just hit me at my core, like I really identify with these songs, and here's the thing. Let's be real. Outside of the feeling alienated stuff and feeling different and, that part of the story, I don't think anybody could really identify with what Evan is going through this, other than the human parts of it. Because I don't think anyone would find themselves in a situation where he has. No matter how awkward it would be, I think if if any of us were Evan, when it gets to the scene where Connor's parents are like, we found this letter, no matter how awkward it is, no, that's where you go, no, I wrote this. I'm sorry that you think that your son wrote this to me, but he didn't. He actually grabbed this from me and I couldn't stop him. That's what you say. But here's the thing. It's a movie. It's a story. look, in some instances, stories need to be realistic, right? And I think that there's a need for that. But sometimes you don't. And when it comes to musicals, I personally allow myself to sort of get lost in everything, And to me, if the message of the story and the music hits me in a way personally more than the things I may not agree with or like or things like that, if me as a person and my emotional response to what's happening hits me more than the negatives of it, then I let my human side take over. I don't worry about being critical of it and all that kind of stuff. Because let me tell you, there are very few stories ever, musical or otherwise, that I would call perfect. If we want to get really nitty gritty about poking holes in stories, let's fucking poke holes in the fucking MCU and a lot of the shit that happens there. Let's poke some holes in, and there's a lot of holes in Lost. And that was like an Emmy award-winning show for years. Held in high regard. But there are so many holes in Lost. There are problems with like the last little end of Game of Thrones. There are, but there are situations where it's like sometimes you just gotta let yourself get lost in the story and the music and just let something hit you. But let me tell you, as somebody who got really deep into the Dear Evan Hansen community, not in the sense that I was a part of the community, but I knew how after watching the stage play, because here's my journey with Dear Evan Hansen. Okay, I had heard a lot of people talk about it, but I never really listened to the music until I like to go on YouTube and like listen to people sing and play different musical instruments because my family has a musical background, and so I really enjoy watching people sing and playing instruments on YouTube. And I was going through a bunch of singers that I was watching, and I listened to a few songs from Dear Evan Hansen's, some of the more popular ones, Waving Through a Window and For Forever. And I loved the songs. So it's like, maybe I need to find this and watch it. So let's just say that I got a hold of a bootleg copy of Dear Evan Hansen. And I watched it. And, well, before that, I just went to the Wikipedia page and I was reading the synopsis of the play before each song. Because you can actually go on Wikipedia and it tells you sort of like the story and where the songs fit in with the story. So, I would read a little bit. This is kind of what's going on in the story. I listened to the song. And I even got a lot out of it just doing that. But when I actually saw... Hey, look. The bootleg wasn't a good bootleg. It was like far back in the theater. It, the camera was going in and out of focus a lot. But I did get to see a bootleg video of the performance. Since then, I think it's really hard to get a hold of. I don't even have my copy of it anymore. But then I watched it, and that's when I really, because I knew how the music and the story hit me, right? Because I understand that different things hit different people hit me. So I was curious if it was hitting other people for the same reasons, and like why, and all of those kinds of things, And I bring all this all up to say that all of the assessments that I made prior to digging into the community, I was pretty much right on. Okay. So I want to say that before going forward, that I have a good grasp of why Dear Evan Hansen was such a huge hit on stage. And I'm going to boil it all down to one ideology and one thing, okay? And it's not just that we like the story of Dear Evan Hansen, because it's a little melodramatic and it's a little like crazy, like we watched this teenager, Evan, just completely just continually like just make things harder on himself, just more and more and more and more, until finally everything just implodes on itself, but here's the thing. The reason why Dear Evan Hansen is so popular, or why it hits so many chords with people, is because there's this disassociative quality to it, right? There is the songs to the musical, there's how the songs work within the story of Dear Evan Hansen itself, but then there's also the ways that you can interpret the songs for you in your own life, and you have the story of Dear Evan Hansen. And that's why the movie is so, this story is so popular. When you really, because look, when I was just going through it on Wikipedia, I brought up the lyrics for all the songs and was reading along as it was being sung. And it's the words in these songs, the specificity, these songs paint a very clear picture. And there's so much in these songs that you just really identify with. And even if you don't identify with them one to one with specifically what the song is talking about, you can infer things because you've lived your life and you can understand human emotion and things like that. And it's by the time you get to Words Fail just completely breaks you. Words fail. It's who hasn't been in the situation where you have fucked up so bad that there's literally nothing you could say, to fix things. It's such a beautiful song because you don't see many musicals or many things touch on that, look, yes, Evan Hansen is the protagonist of Dear Evan Hansen. And yes, I do find a lot of empathy for him as a character. And I feel for him. And I understand how you get caught up in things to where it gets to this unbelievable point. Because even though I've never done something like that myself in my own life, there are, again, other situations in my life, though, that I can infer feelings from because they're similar situations. I've been in situations where I've created a really bad situation and it explodes and words fail. There's nothing I could, I fucked up, and now I have to deal with the consequences of it, And so, yeah, there's a lot in this story and in this musical that, you should be able to get if you have been through any kind of shit in your life at all. That doesn't mean you have to like the story or not, and specific things that happen, but at the very least, you should be able to connect with the music. Because if you don't, then you haven't lived life. And you haven't made mistakes. And I say that bluntly, and I say that honestly. Because that's what this musical is all about. It's all about humanity and screwing up and trying to fix things and failing and desperately wanting to fall in love and desperately wanting to have a perfect family, but just not having that. And it's who doesn't feel those emotions and have those thoughts throughout your life? That's why this musical is so groundbreaking. Now, with all that being said, let me say, from a story structure point of view, well, yeah, sure, maybe some things should have been expounded on more, okay, in both the movie version and the musical version. Sure. But if we expound on everything we need to expound on, it's gonna be like a 5-6 hour fucking musical. Do you want to watch a 5 to 6 hour long musical about being in high school and fucking up your life and other people's life? Is that really what you do? Like, this is what it is, you know, like, you know, and it's like, I think we live in a society right now where everyone wants justice for something, right? When this musical was created and came out in 2015, we were not in the same place as a society that we are today. In the last few years, we have gotten such to this point where the second somebody does something wrong, we're like, burn them at the stake, fuck them, screw them. They fucked up and they need to burn for what they've done. I think the beautiful thing about this is, yeah, Evan fucks everything up. He doesn't just fuck up his own life, but he fucks up, you know, the Murphy's life. And he has hurt his classmates by doing what he's done. But the beautiful thing is, even after everything he did, to a point, the Murphys still care about him. And they don't want to burn him. You know, I mean, it's like Zoe tells him, you know, in the movie, and I think she has a similar conversation with him in the musical as well, but she's like, you know, he goes up to her and he's like, you need to tell people the truth. You need to tell them that this was me. Like, it's not fair for people to, you know, do this. And she's like, no, like, you know, my mom doesn't want to ruin your life. And, you know, and she pretty much says, like, she doesn't want to lose another son, you know, or something to that effect, which shows how much that, I'll call her Mama Murphy, or Amy Adams' character, how much she really does care about Evan. Yeah, I'm sure as a family, the Murphys are pissed the fuck off at Evan for what he did. I mean, he betrayed them in a really bad way. But you also have to think about this too. Like, Evan doing what he did also brought them together as a family. And they wouldn't have what they had he not done what he did. You know? And I think they know that. You know? I think the story makes it very clear that they understand that they were a dysfunctional family, and it took Connor dying and Evan doing what he did for the three of them that are still alive to mend the life that was there and to sort of atone for where they let their life get, you know, despite everything, you know. And there's more into that I could get, but I don't want to paint by numbers everything about the story. I want everyone to figure all the stuff out for yourself when you watch the movie. But, you know, as somebody who, look, I didn't just watch the bootleg when I had it once. I watched it like 5 or 6 times. I've listened, like I said, I listened to the soundtrack on repeat for like 2 or 3 months. You know, like, I really know this story and I really get it and I really feel it in my bones, you know. And I just don't understand the hate for it. I really don't get it. But I do get it, because like I said, we live in a culture where we say we believe in forgiveness, but we only want forgiveness. We're only okay with forgiveness if there's justice too. But that's the thing. Sometimes it's either or, you know. And in this situation with the specific story with Evan, it's like, yeah, if the Murphys wanted to, they could have absolutely ruined Evan's life, probably. You know, I'm pretty sure that there would be some legal cause for action if they really wanted to, for him doing something like that. But instead, it's not that way at all. And honestly, I think with the way the play ends, as well as the movie, there's not anything that says that he won't have a connection with Zoe moving forward and the Murphys moving forward. That they might be able to reconcile things at the end. They leave it very positive at the end. And I think they do that on purpose, you know. It's not so positive where it's like it's a happy ending, but they leave it like, yeah, you know, it's open-ended, you know, like maybe they reconcile, maybe they don't. But they leave it open that maybe they do. And I think that's a really beautiful notion. That, hey, you know, maybe at the end of this, you know, everybody can still come together, because at the end, everybody really does care about one another and want the best thing for one another, you know? Here's the thing, you know, Evan didn't do what he did out of meanness or spite. You know, he did it out of panic. He did it out of wanting a better life for himself. And it is like he said, you know, like, when you have the thing right in front of you, how can you not just go after it? You know, he had the girl that he loved right there, and he had this father figure in his life that he always wanted, and you know, yeah, you know, like, so I don't know. That's all I'm gonna say. This has already been a 21-minute long video. You get the point I'm trying to make. I think everyone is being overly harsh with Dear Evan Hansen, and it does not deserve it. Now, that is not me saying you have to like the story or like the musical. But judge it fairly. Because look, I'm just going to be real here. When it comes to music, there's a lot of rap music that I don't like. I am very picky when it comes to rap music. But I wouldn't dare go to somebody and tell them that music sucks. Because now if it sucks, I will say it sucks. But my point is, I can tell the difference between when something is genuinely garbage and when something just doesn't hit me. It's like, I recognize that this is really good. It's just not for me. You know? And we as a society need to get better at that, you know. So yeah, so I'm going to say that. I love this movie. I cannot wait until it comes out on Blu-ray, because I will be buying it. And if you happen to be a fan of the onstage production, go see this movie. Yes, there are some changes, but it is a phenomenal retelling of the story in movie form, in my opinion. It really worked for me. And I hope it does for you too.